everyone. Today I'm bringing you a very interesting interview with Dr. Jeff Nevin. Dr. Jeff Nevin is very well known for the educational resources that he has created for schools. We have used a lot of those resources even when teaching our students. His most well-known work, or one of his most well-known pieces of work, is the Mariachi Mastery Series, and is still very widely used in many dozens and hundreds of schools. Also, Dr. Jeff Nevin, he is the creative director for the Mariachi Scholarship Foundation. And today we have a very nice interview. My students are going to be joining us. My students from Mariachi Hermanas del Corazón. They're going to be right here in just a few moments. So let's get started and follow me to check out this really amazing interview. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your time. I know we've been talking since right before the holidays, and we wanted just to ask a few questions. Now, these are some of my students, and they have their own mariachi as well now. It's Mariachi Hermanas del Corazón.
Okay.
And they were telling me a little bit that they met you before the Tucson Mariachi Conference.
Okay.
I mean, there's of course thousands of students that go there, but they're big fans too, and we've been utilizing your study materials for a long time. And some of the songs that we play every weekend are from there too.
That's very cool. Well, it's good to see you guys again. Glad to see that you're playing. You look great. Nice trajes. Thanks for dressing up. Sorry I didn't dress up. I just
No problem. No, I just told them, we'll wear the nice suit, and so this way we play the part.
Sure.
We just had a few quick questions to ask you because just your life is so interesting. You're always all over the place working on projects and always having to do with education. And so I put together kind of a short list of things that we've been just curious about. And I thought about asking you this way we can share, on my page and on the YouTube, and we can just, spread the word about mariachi education, because I think musical education is super important. And it just, I know that it's kind of cliche that we say it keeps kids out of, the streets and things like that, but it really does help. Even if they're not bad kids, it even makes them better, it makes them better adults.
Sure.
And it helps with the concentration, helps them in any area, even if they're not gonna pick a music major. I have many students that have become great nurses, and it's just people that become very disciplined. It's a very part of a good childhood, being in music. So we just had a few good questions, but let me go ahead and let them introduce themselves so that you know what instruments they play. So we'll start over there, right in the corner.
My name is Mia. I play guitarón. My name is Adamati and I play trumpet. My name is Gianna, but you can call me Gigi because that's my nickname, and I play the vihuela. My name is Barbella and I play the violin.
Awesome.
And of course, I'm Cassandra and I play the vihuela. That's awesome. Yeah. And so how long have you been playing? Well, everybody has kind of different ages, but can you just the same thing, kind of go over your age and how long you've been playing, just so that he has kind of a little bit of background.
I'm 13. I've been playing for 1 year.
I'm 11. I've been playing for 2 years. I'm 10 and I've been playing for 1 year.
Wow.
I'm 12 and I've been playing for 2 years.
That's awesome. So the oldest one with more years, right, would be you? Or who's the one who's been playing the longest? Monty? Oh, okay. How many years you mentioned?
2.
2? Wow. Okay, so we have 2, 1. And that's amazing. I was so surprised when I saw their Facebook page, because they already are performing quinceañeras and birthdays, and they have beautiful voices too. People really love their voices. So I just decided I'm going to encourage them, because I want them to. I wish somebody would have encouraged me when I was growing up. And so I kind of wanted to do that, which is why I'm doing this, so that people can know also about them, and also sharing the importance of education, as I was mentioning.
Okay.
Wonderful. Do you have any questions for them?
No, I'll just say that's really great to meet you guys. It's nice to see that you're playing. Everybody at one point had only been playing for 1 year. So we all, you're exactly where I was when I was your age. Some of you are ahead of where I was when I was your age, because I started playing when I was 10 years old. So, when I was 10, I was playing 0 years. So that's where I started. So some of you guys are ahead of me. Um, but no, what you said, I mean, people talk a lot about, well, we don't want kids to be in gangs, so we started mariachi. And it's like, well, okay, maybe that's true, but you don't need to be so dramatic about it. I mean, everybody needs activities, and my daughter likes to cook, so she's always looking for new recipes, and she's making different, cookies and different things like that. Even though she doesn't eat them that much, she always makes recipes, and she only eats one, and she leaves the rest for us. But she's really excited and likes to do that. Everybody needs something, and mariachi music. Um, is a really great activity because not only is I mean, it's fun. It sounds great. It's really fun to learn to play. It's a group activity, so you have to get together with everybody else to do it. Everybody needs to play your part. I mean, if the guitarrón doesn't sound good, well, the rest of you guys aren't going to sound too good. So you know that your part is important, but also the vihuela and the guitarrón and the vihuela have to play together. And if once you guys are playing together, well, you need the melody instruments on top of that. And once everybody's playing, you have to sing. And you have solo singers, but then you also sing in chorus. And so everybody has to contribute to what the whole group sounds like, but you also have to do your part. It's really important, and so it's a wonderful lesson that we learn that applies to everything. I mean, when you grow up and you're a nurse, or you grow up and you're a teacher, you grow up and you're a fireman, you grow up and whatever you want to do, there's going to be teams work where everybody has to work together and help the other people, but you're also responsible for doing your part. And so in general, it's a wonderful activity for all those reasons. But on top of that, it has this extra cultural side to it. So I'm hoping that your parents, your brothers and sisters, your abuelas and your tios, that everybody, when they see you dressed like that, and when they see you and hear you playing some of these songs, that it means something to them. And that's what's really nice for me when I see my students. Sometimes they their parents or their families come and they say, wow, it means so much to me to see my child participating in that activity. And so it's not only good for the kids, but it's good for the families. And then when you do things that are good for the families, it's good for the whole school and for the whole community. So I really, keep it up, and I hope you enjoy it. The more you enjoy it, the more fun that you have, the more great activities like playing at the quinceañeras and playing concerts and the playing for your school. Get together and play at lunchtime. The more things that you can do that are fun like that, just the more you're going to want to keep doing it, and then the more that you want to keep doing it, just keep improving and focusing on yourself, on your own playing, and working together. The better you sound, the more fun it is. So the more that you work, the more fun and the more that you're going to want to keep working. So that's basically all that I can say. It's really nice to see you guys doing it, and I look forward to hearing you again soon.
Mark, yes, I'll definitely record a little piece and then I'll put it together as part of this video so you can hear them. That's
Okay.
fine. So we just had a few quick questions, and I thought about writing them down just so that we don't miss any or repeat one or two.
Okay.
So I wanted to let's see here. I'm going to just kind of pass my phone so that this way we can take turns. So I'll start with the first one, which was how did you start the first college program for music, mariachi music, and was it hard?
Okay. Well, it's important to define the words just right. There were colleges that had mariachi before, so I didn't make the first college mariachi. UCLA started their first mariachi. It's also a little bit unclear, but around 1962, I think, some graduate students got together to do a Mexican music project, and some of what they did at the beginning was jarocho and Huasteco, and then they did some mariachi. And within a few years, though, they established it as a mariachi, but they dated to the beginning of that first that first program. So that's the earliest college mariachi that we know. U of A had mariachis. The Arizona State, I actually played in the ASU mariachi for my master's degree. So they had a mariachi that started probably around 1985, give or take a couple of years. I can't remember. So Pima College used to have a mariachi. There were, so a lot of different schools have had mariachis at different times. The thing that we did was we have the world's first college degree in mariachi. So you can actually study mariachi and get a diploma that says, wow, I have my associate's degree. To be clear, it's an associate's degree, not a bachelor's degree. So you guys might not know this, but after you graduate high school, you go to college. And most people talk about getting their bachelor's degree, which is usually some people take 5 years to get it. An associate's degree, what we do at community college, is only 2 years. So, but we try to give them 2 years, and then you transfer to do 2 more years at a university. So this associate's degree in music with a specialization in mariachi is what we did, and that is, as far as I know, nobody has been able to show me any different. That was the first college degree anywhere in mariachi. Um, it was hard. There's a lot of work that's involved, but it's just like learning to play a new song. You have to sit down and you have to do the work. Once you build a fence out there, I have to get all the materials and I have to go and I have to cut and I have to measure. There's a lot of work that you have to do. And creating the degree, there's a lot of forms that I have to fill out there. I needed to do questionnaires and to prove that it was needed. So I wrote, a bunch of questions kind of like this, and I sent them to all the teachers that I knew in different states all over the country. I said, "Do you think it would be important to have a degree? Tell me about who is teaching mariachi. Are there more and more mariachi programs, or does it seem like it's dying out, or there's really no change?" Everybody said that there were more and more mariachis schools all the time. Lots and lots of the teachers were not trained music teachers, so they were either professional musicians that didn't train as a teacher, or they were teachers who didn't train as mariachis. So there were very few people that were mariachis who also went to college to get their degree. And so I was able to show that we need more teachers and that nobody was offering formal teaching education for those people in college. And then the hardest one was we had to show that this degree would transfer someplace else, because if the idea is that you get an associate's degree for 2 years, then you go to get your bachelor's degree. Well, this has to prepare you for that. And creating the first thing in the world is hard for people to understand. And so a lot of people at the school and at the organizations that approve these degrees, they looked at it and said, well, this is why would we do that? It's like, oh, you want to have a degree in I don't know, in cutting furniture up into little pieces? That doesn't make sense. Like, why would I possibly do that? So why would you have a degree in mariachi music? And so I showed that it was necessary, but then to show them that it would transfer, I realized that I could make the degree very, very similar to a normal music degree. So instead of creating a mariachi department that was separate from the music department, I created a degree in music, but has a specialization in mariachi. So the minute that I defined it as, you know, um, as a degree in music with the mariachi specialization, everybody said, "Oh yeah, well that makes sense." You know, literally, it's like, well, I want to create a mariachi degree. No, it's impossible. You can't make a mariachi department. No, you're going to create. You have to build a new building. You have to hire everybody. It's like you can't do that. No, 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 no. It's a music degree, but instead of specializing in jazz or instead of specializing in classical, we'll specialize in mariachi. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And now there are lots of other degrees. Don't know if you've heard, but there are at least 5 or 6 other schools that have mariachi degrees, and I bump into people all the time said, "Oh, we're getting into it too," and so I don't know how many have actually made it, but there are there definitely other at least five or six other schools that have degrees, and all of them follow that exact same model. It's all a degree in music with mariachi expertise or mariachi specialization or mariachi emphasis, something like that.
My question was, what is your favorite part about being a mariachi teacher?
My favorite part. It's really fun to work with people. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes you get tired, and I could retire real soon. And I was sort of talking to people, like sometimes there are problems at school, or sometimes you get tired, and it's like talk to a friend of mine. It's like, man, well, maybe I should think about retiring. Then it's like, well, what else would I do? If I retired, I'd probably invite a bunch of people to come over to my house, and we would have rehearsals and learn music. So that's my job. So no, the best part of it is just when we have a chance to get into the classroom and to learn some music and to watch how my students improve. Um, my daughter, when she was your age, she used to come to my school after school before she getting picked up. So she would sit in with my rehearsals sometimes, and it was just clear that, I would pass out a new song and it would be really hard and everybody would be struggling. And then next week it'd be a little better, next week a little better. And she used to talk about how it's like it's just really clear, like how much better everybody gets over the class of or the course of the semester. And anyway, so I like to see how my students are improving and performing. And for me, that's the most fun part is when we're actually in the classroom. I think the most rewarding part is to see a lot of my students that are going out and graduating and continuing with their degrees. And I have a lot of students who are professional mariachis that played in really great groups. I've had students in Los Camperos. I've had students in Sol de Mexico, divas. Several of my students have gone into divas or colibris and others real good. Flor de Toloache. I had a couple of my students playing with them. So I saw my students on TV getting Grammys. It's like, they're picking up a Grammy. So that's kind of the most rewarding, but honestly, it's the most fun is just when I get to be together with everybody and watch them improve.
My question was, why do you think mariachi music is loved by so many people?
Why is it loved by so many people? Um, it's number one, it's just beautiful music. So and any person in the world that listens to it has to say, wow, that's really pretty. That's just really nice music. And you guys might not have so much experience with this, but I've traveled all over the world and just I've always enjoyed listening to different kinds of music, and there's a lot of music in the world that really is pretty. You should expose yourself to different kinds of music, and but I tell you, when we perform mariachi anywhere, people just say, "Wow, that's really nice." So, violins, trumpets, guitars, really good singers. There are so many just beautiful songs that we do. It's just beautiful music, number one. Number two, though, why is it loved by so many people? I think it has kind of been the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives. And you guys are still kind of young, but ask your parents or ask your grandparents. They grew up with a lot of these songs. Jose Alfredo Jimenez, he wrote his songs in the 1950s, 1960s. Ruben Fuentes, I had the great fortune of knowing and working with him. He wrote songs for Pedro Infante in the 1940s, 1950s. And so he told me, oh, yeah, well, when I wrote with Pedro, this is the way I would work with him. And it's just, some of those songs, he wrote them for, I mean, I don't know if you don't know Pedro Infante, but he's an actor and wonderful singer. Even today, people imitate the way that he sang. But he was a famous actor too. So imagine like, I don't know, Brad Pitt, was also a really famous singer, and so people watch him in the movies, but then he also just sings like that. And so your parents and your grandparents, they grew up listening to that music when they were kids. And then now, it just reminds you of things. It's just really, really beautiful. And so it has this long history where it has been kind of tied together with people's lives. But the final thing is that
especially in the United States, there are people who are Mexican Americans. So they're either they grew up in Mexico or their parents grew up in Mexico. But now we look at the kids who maybe you're growing up in the United States, right? So I don't know how much Spanish you speak. I have a lot of students who their grandparents only speak Spanish, but they don't speak very much Spanish at all. So they don't speak the same language as their grandparents. So I don't know if I don't know how it is with your family. It's different in different parts of the country. Um, but I see them. It's like I don't know. Hola, mijo, pues si quieres venir a la casa y te preparo algo de cenar, ¿qué quieres? I don't know, grandma, hamburgers. You know, it's like, wait a minute, you don't speak the same language. But imagine from their perspective to see their kids that they love and they see them changing and having a different culture. For those people to see you guys dressed up like this and singing the same songs that they sang with their grandparents, I mean, that's really profound. And so if you ask why the music is loved, I mean, that's why there's so many people that just cherish this music and say, it just means so much for them to see that their family is participating in this. So the music is beautiful. It has such a long history, but for certain people, it just has this extra, really powerful sort of connection that it makes with families.
So, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you during a mariachi performance?
Funniest thing, because there's always something, that happens. Um, I remember one time we were playing, and I looked over at my guitarrón player, and his belt had undone, but he's playing like this. So his belt undone, and it got looser, and he's playing like this. And he looks at me, and I was, "What's going on?" And then his belt it fell off, and it's like here's a little thing. It's like your belt's like this, and all of a sudden it's like this, and it's hanging down like this. And he's like, I was like, I can't help you, man. It just and he's so he starts standing with his legs like this, so that his pants don't fall down. That was pretty funny. Um, Funny things, I don't know. There's always something. I mean, we were playing in Guadalajara once, and they had like a real old stage, and they have these kind of metal pieces that they sort of put together. And then a lot of times the sound system isn't really, it's just old, and some of the microphone, like the connections are a little bit loose. And it started raining, so we're standing there, and it was wet. And then if you touch the microphone, it would shock you. So, but it still works. And there's a bunch of people, and they're listening to us. So, it's like, well, you go up and sing, but you can't touch the microphone because you're afraid you're going to get a shock. I don't know if that's funny or if that was kind of torturous. Uh, One time, do you guys know the song Niño Perdido? Do you guys know that song? So one time we were playing, and we were in a mall, and one of my students, like, he went to be the Niño Perdido, so he's out something like that. And we sort of heard it, and then we kept playing, and then all of a sudden, like there's a mall, there's like a couple different levels, and they have those escalators that kind of go like this. And then all of a sudden, on the second call, he starts to play, and he's on the escalator. Da, 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 da. He goes, on the next one, da, 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 and he goes up to the next one. I was like, you're supposed to come back. Like, you don't play it to get farther and farther away. So we had to play the song like 5 times so that he could come back to the stage. So that was a little bit silly. Um, I don't know. There's always something funny that kind of comes up. And when you play the same thing all the time, I got another one for you. This maybe wasn't the funniest thing, but sometimes when you do the same thing a lot, little things are like, oh, that was real funny when this happened. But it's nice when something kind of bigger happens. I remember we went to play a birthday party for somebody in their house, and it was kind of a surprise. So we're sort of waiting around the corner, and then they told, okay, come in. So we started playing, ba, 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 da, 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 and we walk in, and there's a whole bunch of people sitting at a table, kind of in the garage, kind of around the side of the house. And then we played, and we did the Las Mañanitas, and we did and happy birthday to you, bam. And then before people could start clapping, there's a little girl who's like 3 or 4 years old, and she just goes, that was so weird. And if you imagine, like you're just like you live in a house. I live in the house. It's like this all the time, right? Sometimes there's a dog that barks, and sometimes the car drives, and sometimes the car leaves. But then all of a sudden, like 10 mariachis come in and they start to play, and then they stop. So that's it was just so cute. She just goes, "That was so weird." So that's pretty funny. I don't know.
What's the most important thing about of mariachi group needs to sound?
The most important thing about how a mariachi group needs to sound. Um, different people might say different things. For me, if we're talking about the music, I think it's important just to focus on your instruments and your singing and learning your parts so that you're playing everything correctly. It's funny because there are a lot of different parts of it, but the big part is doing it correctly and then doing it with style and passion and energy. We need both of those things. Mariachis kind of famously have I don't know how to say this, but I'm also a classical musician, and like I went to college and I play lots of different kinds of music. And mariachis sort of have a reputation, not so much now, but for the longest time, the reputation was that they kind of play wrong notes sometimes, and they don't really play in tune, and it's kind of rough, and it's kind of like this. And I ask people like, why is it that, why do you keep hiring that guy? Because he doesn't play the right notes and he just whatever. It's like, well, he knows all the songs and he's just got a really great style and like a lot of energy. And for me, because I didn't grow up inside mariachi, my parents are not Mexican. Um, so I learned about mariachi later, and I was like, well, but he doesn't sound very good. Yeah, but he sounds really passionate and really, I like the way that they do this. So, a lot of mariachis approached it that way. But when I started, I met mariachi vargas at the Tucson conference. They were our teachers. Those guys are good. They can sing. They're doing complicated music and they're playing all the right notes, and it was really amazing. And they do it with so much style. But the way that mariachis, traditionally approach that, it's like you have a lot of style, and then gradually you learn to play all your right notes, and then you're playing everything correctly in a really great style. Whereas classical musicians, I don't know how your music classes were, but when I started, we started in a band and we play one note and you hold it and then you play one note. And then my first class is here's how to play quarter notes, and you try and be real exact and real precise. And then eventually you can play a song. And then I remember my teacher said, okay, now you know the song. What we need to do now is to start to play with some kind of style. And maybe to be lyrical, or maybe to use vibrato, or maybe to, be more expressive. So they're like starting from correctness, and if they're really good, they start to add some style. Whereas mariachis have really good style, and if they're really good, they start to play everything correctly, right? But notice we all meet in the middle, right? I did a concert with Placido Domingo. He's classical singer, best singers in the world. I tell you, people can criticize his mariachi isn't really the style that I want, but that guy's got passion, man. I mean, just singing a song and it's like 10,000 people, like they can feel the energy that he has when he wants to sing a song. I've done lots and lots and lots of concerts with classical musicians, and it's passionate. You think a classical trumpet player plays real pretty and off to the side and doesn't know how to play loud? You sit in front of that orchestra when we're doing fanfare for the common man, it's louder than any mariachi song you've ever played. It's really, really strong. And there's such passion when we do classical music at the highest level, it's so passionate. And when you do mariachi music at the highest level, it's just as precise. So it's hard for me to say what is the one most important thing. I think just because there are so many mariachis that lean towards this style and passionate thing, it's like, learn your notes, play the notes correctly. And for me, at least with my students, they have that passion. They grew up with the music, so they're going to sing with energy. So everything I do in my class is trying to teach them to be more correct, more precise. but it is true. Sometimes we've gone to Guadalajara and we'll do workshops or we'll meet some of those guys. And my students say, wow, they're more passionate. They have more energy. They just have such great style. It's like that's what we're trying to lead toward. If you're playing the right notes, if you know your keys, you have to be able to change keys, which means you have to be able to do your scales correctly. I mean, you have to know you have to be in tune. You have to have a good sound, so people can hear you. Mariachi, again, there's I don't know how to say it, but there's bad reputations that mariachis have had over the years, and that is changing now. So hopefully you don't run into this, but people just expect mariachis that all the music sounds the same, because they always play loud. Listen to Sol de Mexico. They play loud and they play soft. Well, it's always so aggressive. Yeah, listen to Vargas. Sometimes they're aggressive on the sones and sometimes it's really sweet and really beautiful on the guapangos or the boleros. It's really fast music. Well, there's also really slow music. And if you want to play fast and slow and loud and soft and aggressive and pretty, and to be able to do those things, you have to be able to play your instrument, practice your scales, practice your long tones, practice your jalón, practice your intonation on you know, it's all of that is important. And the better you get, the more able you are to do all of these things. And that's what education is about.
Can I ask just one thing? It was one of the questions that I had here, but it goes right along with what you were mentioning. So where do you see mariachi music going into the future? Because there's like so many, I mean, as you said, people are now used to, now that we have more technical mariachi groups, now their ears are more attuned to what technical mariachi sounds like. So do you think, where do you see things going? Maybe just even in the next decade, or is it like an open world now, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I mean, for 100 years, mariachis have always, done new things. I mean, you could listen to recordings from the 1930s, then the 1940s, and the 1950s, 1960s. You can hear differences in the music. And the last, I don't know, 10 or 20 years, there haven't been that many big innovations in the music. Some of the most modern music that mariachis did, the most like, oh my God, that's even today, it's like, wow, that's like really blows my mind that mariachis did that. It's like from the 1980s, 1990s, the stuff that Vargas and even Sol and Camperos is a very traditional group. The stuff that they recorded, in the 90s and the 2000s, 2010s isn't more advanced than what was happening back then. So I'd like to see somebody kind of still creating some new music for that. But honestly, if you're asking my opinion, what I think is going to happen, I think that people are going to start treating mariachi a little bit more like we treat the symphony orchestra. We still play Bach, we still play Mozart, we still play Beethoven, we still play Chopin, we still play Shostakovich, we still play Bartok, we still play Bernstein. All of this music it's such good music, and we want to keep playing it because it's still interesting, it's still fun, it still sounds great, it still means something to hear Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I mean, come on. I mean, that still really means something. So I think that people, instead of like trying to do a brand new fancy version of Mexico Lindo that sounds like it's, from the 21st century, just play it and sing it and make it sound great. And it's still going to have an impact on people today. So, I don't want to discourage creating new music. Of course, I'm a composer and I'm writing new music that we have. I do my own arrangements that are different than other groups, and I'm trying to make my group sound a certain way. I'm proud of the new things that we've done that nobody else does that. But at the same time, I think that we need to, and I think we are going to begin treating this music more and more with more and more respect and more like people do treat classical music. I mean, it's only been 100 years since even less, since like 1950 is kind of where we talk about the beginning of the modern mariachi when songs from 1945 sound like old fashioned, songs from 1955 we still play them the same way. And so right around 1950 when Ruben Fuentes joined Vargas and began to write boleros and guapangos and changed Mariachi Vargas into what it is today. From that point on, the music is like there's a repertoire that I can imagine that we would still be playing those songs 50 or 100 years from now. We need to keep creating new music, but I mean, just think about it. That we play Cien Años. Don Rubén wrote that for Pedro Infante in 1953, 54, and we still play it basically the same way. And I can imagine people still singing that song. Manuel Esperón did all the Ay Jalisco no te rajes, amigo lindo querido. That's famous. So a lot of those songs, I can imagine that we would continue doing them, and I think it'd be great. So if we treat the music with respect, if we do it well, and if we continue to present it to more and more people as deserving of the attention and the care that we give to it, I think it will continue. If, on the other hand, we try and change it completely, and oh yeah, let's do a concert with laser shows, and let's have this, and let's do these songs instead of those songs. And if we completely change the music, it might be exciting right now, but I don't think that's going to last very much longer. So, if we want it to continue for another 100 years, I think has something to do with treating it with as much respect and presenting it as well as possible in as many places as we can.
And it's also that cultural aspect, right? Because it's not just a style, it's that we actually are preserving a culture and we want to preserve it, forever, all the time.
Exactly. So when those songs were new, your grandparents were kids and they heard their parents singing those and they thought this was great. Now it's you guys, but imagine 20, 30, 40 years from now, if you hear your kids that are playing these same songs, you say, "Oh, that's the same songs that I played when I was a kid." So then it's going to mean something to you. So that's our responsibility as teachers and as parents to continue to express and to share this, in order for it to keep going. I once there's just a funny story, but there was a teacher invited a really good vihuela player from I won't tell you who it was, but there's somebody from a well-known group, and invited them to come to their classroom to meet their kids and said, "Oh, this is so and so from this mariachi," and the kids are like, "Who?" And I never heard of them, and I heard the story. Somebody saying, "Oh yeah, well, isn't that terrible that this big group isn't promoting themselves enough? The kids don't even know who they are." But the real story is that teacher didn't teach those kids. Said, if you're going to invite this important person to come in here, you got to tell your students if it's not their responsibility to get famous. You're the teacher. You have to say, you know what? There's somebody really famous. You might have never heard of them, but let me tell you who they are, and this is what they've done. And when they show up, then you're going to be excited to hear them. So it's our responsibility as teachers and parents to expose our kids to the music, to the history, to the culture, and that'll stick with them. And then 20 years from now, it'll be their responsibility to do it for the next generation too.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. This was great. I mean,
Thank
you
you.
girls learn a lot.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll keep you updated, as you said, as the time goes by, you'll see them grow up, and we never know, right? Like, because you never know. I remember there was a t-shirt I read one that said, you never know where music will take you.
Right.
And what places, what concerts, who you're gonna meet, and the main thing is for us to support them.
Yeah,
Because-
exactly. It's a great activity. It's good for you just to do. I mean, if you want to do something else, do something else. You got to do something. If you choose to do this, you're really going to like it because there's really a lot of really exciting experiences that it'll give you, opportunities that will open up, places you can go, and just it's of all the things you can do, it's one of the most fun and the most rewarding, I think, and it's something that'll stick with you. And I'll tell you something else. I've never met somebody who said, "Man, I wish I would not have learned how to play the violin because that was a big waste of time." Nobody has ever said that. I wish nobody ever taught me how to speak Spanish. That was terrible. I wish that I never traveled. No, you know what? Every experience you have like this, learning to play, learning the songs, spending the time with your friends, nobody has ever said, I wish I did not doing that. There are lots of people that grew up and said, man, somebody invited me to play in a group and I told them no, and I regret it every day, you know. So doing this, you will always be happy that you did. And keep it up.
Question for you.
Okay.
When did you figure out that you had a passion for mariachi music?
That's hard. You know, I started playing trumpet just in the band, not playing in mariachi. I joined the mariachi kind of without knowing what it was. I mean, somebody saw me with my trumpet and they said, "Hey, you play trumpet? We're looking for a trumpet player." So I just kind of showed up, and they were real nice guys. You know, I just remember, you know, we were playing with a tennis ball half the time. Like we learned a couple songs, but we were just messing around and playing and having fun. So at the beginning, it was more about just making new friends. But then we went to the conference in Tucson, and like I said, this was 1984. No, 85 that I went. So the third year that they had the Tucson conference, and the Mariachi Vargas was and Mariachi Cobre, those were our teachers. So I remember being in a room, and I remember there's like 20 or 25 trumpet students, but there were four teachers. So we got to meet them pretty well. And since I could read music, I was already in the band, and I joined an orchestra the same year. Um, you know, I could read music better than most of the other, you know, mariachi kids who would learn to play songs without reading very much. And they gave us some of that really, really complicated music. Like I said, the mid '80s. There's an album called Mexicanísimo that Mariachi Vargas put out, I think, '85, and you know, really, really complicated songs. But I just played them. You know, that wasn't hard. And then the guys in Vargas, Federico Torres was the trumpet player in Vargas. He just retired like 10 years ago. So he played in Vargas for almost 50 years. So when I met him, he'd already been there for 30 years. He but he you know told me here, well, you have to play with this style and you have to articulate like this, and here this is the way we do it. Then when we did the concert, I remember, you know, you've been to the conference, they have the great big concert. They invited the kids onto the stage to play for 20,000 people. And so Vargas was there and all of us students. I remember I was standing way off on the side. And then Federico looks at me. He says, "Hey, come over here. I want you to sit next to me, or to stand right here next to me. And then you and me, we're going to play first trumpet." And so everybody else is following the trumpets because, you know, and all the trumpets follow the first trumpet, and he's the Mariachi Vargas first trumpet, so everybody's following him, and he wants me to sit next to him, and you know, so we're playing something like this, and then he puts his trumpet down and says, "Okay, now you take over." You know? And so it's like somebody's got to lead, and I'm the one who's standing in that place, you know, and so that meant something, you know, and so those were the first kind of moments that you know that I kind of started developing this passion for it. I mean, just to, you know, one, to know that somebody told me, "Hey, you know, I think you're doing a good job." Two, to give me the opportunity to be in that concert, but then to put some of that responsibility and say, "Hey, I trust you, and I think you could do it." You know, that meant something for me to do that. So I always thank Federico, but we're still in touch. I, you know, texted or sent him a little messages just last week, just about little things. Um, so no, those are kind of the moments that we have. And then if I can give some of those moments to my students, you know, that also means something to me now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, guys, it's great to meet you, and maybe I'll see you at the Tucson conference this year.
We'll see you. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, take care, guys. Bye.